Hey YouTube, it's Corey Reichman here. Today we're going to talk about my 2015 Aston Martin Vanquish that I used to own, no longer own it, and why. Let's talk about my very first supercar I've ever owned. It was an Aston Martin Vanquish, but I'm going to quickly tell you why I had to sell it, why I had to get rid of it. There was a couple things that really irked me, a couple things I liked about it, but more than anything, I got irked by these few things and got rid of it as fast as I could. So I purchased a 2015 Aston Martin Vanquish Volante, which is the drop top. I bought it for $132,500. It was through a dealer in Florida, but really it was an estate sale. The car was being listed as part of an entire estate. There was multiple cars, and then there was a dealer broker offering it up on eBay amongst the other stuff in the household. So I got it for a killer deal. I negotiated it down to $132,500. It was in a very rare color. There wasn't any colors, and to this day I still haven't seen a single one listed in this color. I forgot the exact name, but basically it was maroon. Previously to getting the Aston Martin, I had, at that time, which was one of my favorite cars, a 427 Corvette. So the 427s, it was a C6 427 Corvette. Last year of the C6s, if you remember, they had the 7-liter Z06 engine in it, and it was a drop top. So wide body, drop top, Z06 engine. It screamed, and this one had heads and exhaust, and it was absolutely a monster. But I found this Aston Martin Vanquish, and it was, at that time, I used to think this was my dream car. This is one of those cars I had up as a screensaver on my computers. I had them saved in my phone. I used to think it was beautiful, and I still do think it's beautiful. What I liked about it is it had that long hood and a short deck, and with the top down, it was in fact beautiful, especially from the side profile. I loved it. Shortly after getting the car, I got irked with a few things about it. So the first thing is the fit and finish. When people tell you Aston Martins are hand built, that's not necessarily a good thing. At least back in the old days. I know Aston's gotten a little bit better with the new stuff, but the older ones, the fit and finish irked me. Like the windows, when they'd roll up, would not fit underneath the convertible top, so you'd have to halfway roll the window up, close it, push it up. Like, it was annoying. For a car that had a 333K sticker, for it to have fit and finish of this car was crazy. The person that originally bought that car, they got hit hard with depreciation, and I can see why. So the fit and finish irked me. I mean, there was panel gaps on the interior. It's beautiful leather. You can smell the leather. The cowl that was used here, I mean, has been paid homage, but some of the lines didn't really line up, like where the glove box would meet the dashboard, the door card right here where it meets the window, like there would be a gap, and you sit in the car and you don't feel like a $300,000 car. So that kind of started to bother me after just a couple weeks of owning it. So the fit and finish was the biggest one. And to more about the fit and finish, like the leather itself was beautiful. If you take a look at the seats, like the spec of the seats, I mean, it really stood out. You drop the top, you have this red car with red seats. It was beautiful, but that leather, that handmade, soft, supple leather scratched so easily. Like every time you would sit in it, a couple times later, you'd look at the bolster and there's just scratches everywhere. Right here where on your hand rest, where you put your hand down, you put your phone in the cup holder, all around there was covered in leather, and red leather would get scratched in no time. And for a $300,000 sticker, like, why is the leather falling apart just after a couple uses? So that began to irk me. Now, one thing I loved about the car was that V12 engine. Oof, I do need another V12 in my life. I can't wait to get into another V12, and I would give a Vanquish another shot. I don't think I'd get a convertible this time because that convertible, it just didn't operate like it should. I mean, there were times it would get stuck here and I have to push the button 3 or 4 times to get it to go down. The motor, one of the motors was starting to go on it. I got a quote for $7,000 to replace, because it had two motors, to replace one of the motor, $7,000. So that's another thing with Aston. Like if you buy a Lamborghini, for example, that's a Volkswagen product. They have a parts bin that's shared with a lot of other cars. And so you can get parts a lot cheaper, service a lot cheaper. And that's one reason to consider a supercar from a brand like Lamborghini. But anyways, back to the Aston Martin. The V12 was excellent. I'm gonna get it again, just don't know when. The sound on it was amazing. But I'm big into looks of cars. Like I don't need the fastest hypercar in the world. I want to look at a car and realistically want it to be beautiful. And this Vanquish, you know when you park your car in a parking lot, you want to turn around and look at it and be like, yeah, that's my car. I started to lose that luster with the Vanquish because you turn around and it looks like a Ford Fusion. And that bothered me so much. Before the Ford Fusion ever came out, this Vanquish, my favorite design ever. And then the Fusions come out. And I happened to buy the car like 2 or 3 years later after that body style of the Fusion comes out. And every time I parked it and I would look around and look back at it, I got so mad that it looked like a $20,000 Fusion. Like Fusion did a good job. Great, good for them. But to have a $300,000 sticker, I paid $132 for it. That bothered me to look back and it just no longer looked like a supercar. That was probably the #1 thing that irked me was I'm driving a $130,000 Fusion. Now the new design is totally different. They've got the big grills. I don't love them as much. I do like them. I don't love them as much as I loved the Vanquish when it originally came out. So I'm not sure if I'll be getting one of those. So I was telling you about the mechanism for the drop top. It was a $7,000 quote for it. Part of the problem with this particular car is it was no longer under warranty. And I'd love to own an exotic under warranty, carefree driving. This one didn't have it, and I wasn't financially prepared to drop $7,000 on one little part. So that irked me, not having a warranty on this car. But luckily the part worked enough for me to offload the car. So a couple little financials about the car. I bought it, as I said, for $132,500 in January of 2022. Almost exactly 1 year later, in January of 2023, I sold it for $125,000. So that's $7,500 to own a V12 Vanquish for 1 year, $7,500. So that's $625 a month. It's hard to even own a Kia Sorento for $625 a month, let alone I got to drive, and I put like 4,000 or 5,000 miles on this thing for $625 a month. So if you buy the right car in the right spec, you can drive it for a lot less than normal commuter cars, and I continue to do that. So I actually sold this car and got an Audi R8. Not quite, as prestige a name brand as Aston Martin, but the Audi R8 is a Volkswagen product. It had a warranty, and it still has a warranty till 2027. And it's a drop top, and it doesn't have a V12, but it does have a V10 because it's the 2020 performance variant. And frankly, it's faster than the Aston Martin. It doesn't sound quite as good. The V12 still sounds better, but the V10 Audi performs better. It's all-wheel drive, so it hooks and goes. It's faster to 60, faster than the quarter mile, handles better. The Aston Martin was more of a grand tourer, a grand cruiser, which it was comfortable. The seats were excellent. It was comfortable. You could definitely do lots of miles in it, but the performance isn't as good. And now I have a car that performs better. I get more compliments in the Audi than I did in the Aston Martin, and I think part of that is because the Aston Martin looks like a Fusion, but the Audi looks pretty exotic. It's got the big old engine behind it. Volkswagen product, unlimited mile warranty till 2027. That's just a better deal. One little thing that did irk me was the maroon color. In the pictures, in the listing photos, it looked like the maroon had like a flake in it, something metallic really. It made it look more red than it really was. And so when I got the car and I got to drive it for a while, it was definitely a deep maroon color and I didn't love it. I wanted more of a flashy color. So when it arrived, it wasn't exactly what I wished for. But it did look good. It definitely looks better than a black or a white or a gray car because it's a color that you don't normally see on an Aston Martin Vanquish. So in summary, it's a 2015 Aston Martin Vanquish. It's the one that has the 8-speed ZF gearbox. I made sure to get the 2015 up because it has the updated 8-speed gearbox. It was like a half a second faster, 0 to 60. It's the same 8-speed that they still put in the M5s today. It's an excellent gearbox. I did like the gearbox because it was a normal automatic when you want it to be, and then you can paddle shift it and shifts incredibly fast. So the 8-speed I think is probably a must if you're looking at an Aston Martin Vanquish. But at the same time, be ready to turn around and know that there's a million Fusions and Mustangs that look just like it. So for that reason, I'm out. So YouTube world, leave a comment in the bottom. Do you think I made a mistake by selling this 2015 Aston Martin Vanquish? Do you think the fit and finish would irk you like it did me? Also, let me know if there's any other cars, any friends near Atlanta that has a car you'd like me to review. Drop me a comment, shoot me a message. I'd love to tell you all about it.